say snapped? Because if my prana is excessively attached to things of the finite world, the material world, Madonna may have a problem. She's a material girl, so she's stuck in that. That's what popped in her head. So I just saw a big billboard of Madonna. There's crazy things on her face, and so I'm in Madonna consciousness. My apologies. So back to the point. If my pranic energy is excessively, the key word there is again excessively latched onto things of the material world, and that could even be other people, right? You know, even my son. So this is very subtle stuff and very really difficult stuff. It takes a very subtle mind, doesn't it? It takes a very great sensitivity. That's why really what we're doing is we're refining and refining, becoming more subtle, becoming more subtle, becoming more subtle. Anytime you're using art to become more subtle, anytime you're doing you're refining your manners and your speech, all of those are very practical pathways to God consciousness, because it is the subtle body that is like a thin shell around the soul. And it's at the time of death that that subtle body carries the soul and detaches you from what you are, from the pranic body and the physical body. So if my prana is excessively attached to the material realm, the realm that is always changing, what the Sri Ramakrishna said, simple teaching, just find out what remains. Just find out what remains. Some things don't remain. Most things don't remain. One thing remains. Find out what remains. So, but if I'm kind of latched onto this and latched onto that, at that time of the kind of detaching of me from the prana, from the material realm, that's going to disturb the prana in the body as that process is happening. And that's going to make it very difficult to die. But that moment isn't ahead of us. That moment's right now. Are you with me? You're always dying and being reborn in every single moment. The Big Bang isn't something back in the past. The Prakriti, the Purush is boom, the sound current's happening with every moment. They call it a blink of an eye, the smallest unit of time. How many thoughts? 1,000 thoughts per wink of an eye. It's the 1,000-petaled lotus. 1,000 thoughts per wink of an eye. That is the Big Bang. That is the creation happening every moment. And it's creating your pranic presence, projection. Are you following me? Mm-hmm. And so, therefore, when that process is happening, I'm being recreated in every moment. So as long as my prana is excessively attached to things in the material world right now, is causing me to be a little less happy than I could be. Causing me to enjoy life a little less than I could be enjoying life. You know what I mean? So today and tomorrow, we're going to really concentrate the prana in the center of our organism. So that is like boom, boom. And you know what the catch-22 is? When you're not dependent on any of those things, then you can actually enjoy them thoroughly. You know what I mean? So when you're not actually dependent on sex for satisfaction in life, then you can actually enjoy it. When you're not actually, meaning dependent in a neurotic type of a way, where you're not dependent on money. Obviously, we're in a certain practical way dependent on money, dependent on sex, etc. I'm not trying to be like too lofty here. Real human being, just speaking. But when you're not dependent on those types of things to satisfy your neuroses, you know what I mean? My neuroses. When that's gone, then you can actually enjoy food. It's not such a big deal. And then you can actually taste it properly. You can taste what's really there. And you get satisfaction from it much more quickly. The organism is satisfied. And when the organism is satisfied, then it doesn't have to take control of your mind and try to find satisfaction elsewhere. Does that make sense? Because that's the last real point of that all human beings are looking for sweetness. That's the great insight of Ayurveda. I already said something else was the great insight of Ayurveda. But that's also the great insight of Ayurveda. But it's really the same insight. Earlier, what did I say was the great insight of Ayurveda? Is that the body and the tissue layers of the body are the terrain of your psyche, of your mind. So my blood, my muscles, even the semen and the egg, and the bone and the nervous tissue, that's all the terrain of your psyche. Try being in a happy mood when you've got overheated toxic blood. Very difficult. So, the organism needs satisfaction, and it gets satisfaction from sweetness. But what we tend to do when we're kind of pivoting from a more kind of emotional or superficial pivot point, we tend to try to satisfy the organism through a superficial type of sweetness. You know what I mean? Good. So you get the over excessive sweetness in your food. Are you following me? Mm-hmm. Or you try to go for, or you follow the lust track pathway a little too steadily. You know what I'm saying? Or all these, to put any different scenario, every layer of life, this can be applied. What we really want, and so then that will satisfy the organism for a moment. You eat like a really sweet dessert, it's like, that tastes good. How long does that last, though? Not very long. What lasts is when you have figured out, and that's what yoga and Ayurveda is all about, how to generate the deep sweetness. The downside of that is it takes more time. It's not as easy. The upside of that is it lasts. It's long lasting. So you develop that deep internal sweetness they call soma or bliss. And that's what starts to happen when you start to, this pituitary gland starts to secrete into your bloodstream. Pineal changes. That's what we're going into tomorrow. Pineal starts to change its beam of radiation. Then a different type of thought, feeling, emotion, desire is moving through you. You're now operating from a whole different pranic environment. And then you're automatically, organically moving in the direction of whatever it is that you were born to do. That mission and embodying the mission. If you've got a mind, you've got a mission. Embodying that mission is what gives you sweetness. But even on a basic physical level, that's why the great herbs like ashwagandha in India and shatavari and these types of herbs are so revered because they develop that deep internal sweetness that gives power to your immune system, that generates your magnetic field. Do you know that? They call that ojas. O-J-A-S is how it's usually transliterated, ojas. It's deeply connected to the spinal fluid, but it's not the spinal fluid. It's deeply connected to your immune system, but it's not your immune system. It's deeply connected to the vitality of your organs, but it's not the vitality of your organs. It's deeply connected to the magnetic field. In fact, it gives the strength to the magnetic field, but it's not the magnetic field. It's something else. It's something much, much, much more subtle. That's why we have to become subtle. That's why we're here. That's what we're going to go into. Ready?
Yes.
So, come on your hands and knees.